Hi everybody, this is Doug Resman, and we're back with another video here. So I wanted to quickly actually explain how the shotgun spread system works for the last couple videos I uploaded. So in the videos we saw, when I actually was shooting and stuff, we have a spread mechanic. It's very basic when you think about it. There's a lot more work involved in actually getting it running. So of course when we fire the guns, which we now have 4 shotguns on this, so this wasn't the clearest thing ever in the videos. There isn't just one shotgun on this, there's actually 4. This is the Lancer main battle tank for the game. It has the ability to stick 4 medium weapons on the system. Right now I basically have 4 of the same exact weapons attached, just because I want to get some testing going. What I really should be doing is sticking 1 weapon on this, just so I can get a really good test, but it does work. So you get 4 of these, each one of these fires, I believe, 8 pellets. So every time I'm clicking the trigger, I'm firing basically 4 times 8, which is basically 32. It's really hard to tell because how the spread's kind of working, so you see it's just a very slight spread. There also is this gap that pops up that I'm still working on solving, but it's fine. It only shows up every so many shots, and as far as I can tell, we're still getting those mostly 8 shots. It looks like we're getting actually closer to 7. So that may be an issue with the iterator loop that actually does fire everything off. We also got the main guns here. What's not quite obvious as well in those last couple videos, we do have a colorization system kind of going on for the bullets. So the bullets are getting slight coloration changes between them. It really isn't clear, and I'm trying to work on a better solution for it, because right now we're just dropping the RG and B by like 50 randomly. Each time a bullet is spawned. Because how fast the bullets move, you really just can't tell. It's a little bit more obvious when they do fire. They're pure white when they do fire in the center, and you can see that difference of colorization change in them as well. I'll be working on getting theoretically a shader going for these, so that way when these are fired, that they have a kind of gloss and glow to them, and that they actually have a much stronger colorization change to them, while at the same time maintaining the blue look of the shots. These are actually meant to be kind of an energy-based plasma weapon. We are going to have lasers in this game, and we are going to have regular ballistic weapons. The funny thing is, this is actually registered as a ballistic in the system, so I'm probably going to go change that to an energy weapon. It's just going to be probably an energy shotgun. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at how the code works and everything else. So the first thing is I actually have a gizmo here. This is what they're actually called as gizmos, to debug and show me what's going on with the system. I have modified this since the last video I did show this off. So we've got the red cone, which kind of is not actually accurate to the system. I actually added +2 to give it a little bit more at the outside here. And then each of these ones are actually accurate. So these are the little green lines, or the actual paths that your bullets are going to travel if you were to use this system to actually shoot the thing off. So you can see we have 8 lines here, and that they actually do spread from this system. The actual spreading is based on the bullet exit point here. So if I actually did grab this and move this, and we went back to the shotgun, you will see that does spread from that. So what the weapon does, and this is the actual script over here, it will find the exit point here. If you have more than one exit point, it will develop more than one of these as well. So you will get a spread calculated on each of those. We can actively change the spread on here, so we can change this to say 0.1 and get a much smaller spread on the x-axis. I do kind of want to add a y spread on this as well, so that way I can get a little bit better patterns out of these. Right now we're going with that just really generic arcing pattern you see in a lot of games that add arcade-based shotguns. So far, anyways, let's get this back to the default value there. We can change the angle here, and as you see, this does update real time over here. So I can like sit here and just mess with this and get it, and I can see my exact cone. I get that cone to look kind of where I want it to look at how I want it. I'm going to leave it at 60 though, because I do kind of like how the spread works. I can change the number of slices I have, so say I can have 10 slices here. But we're going to have 8, and you can see there apparently is insertion failure, expression approximately. I think that is unrelated to anything we just did. We can change the number of bullets we fire. So the bullets fired is unrelated to the spread mechanic. So say for example I did have this spread and I wanted to fire 16 bullets. It will actually fire 2 bullets per spread, which is not very useful. That's what I was talking about. I might do that Y variation in there. I really need to get some kind of variation going on there, so that way when you're firing, it looks a little nicer. And it really isn't about gameplay at that point, it's just about visuals. So we'll get that saved there. Prefab, we set the story time, a whole bunch of other stuff. This stuff's already been in there for a while, and everything there. A lot of this lower stuff here is set up via the script system, so when this actually is generated, so that's the reason why we're looking at a very basic cannon here, rather than looking at the full tank, is this is an object by itself that is then attached to the tank when the tank does spawn. So let's get a look at the scripts here. The scripts are super basic, and it's a bit of spaghetti code. So we got a ton of data on the top of this. I actually need to probably come through here and clean this up. I want to move over to a data-driven system for the projectiles at some point. So likely what will happen is we'll see this script get a lot smaller and probably go away for the most part, as a lot of this stuff will probably end up inside of other things. We'll probably still leave the firing position in here, but things like the alternative fire, I'm going to switch that to its own little script that'll be like we'll call it firing modes script. And what it'll do is it'll be a data object that then tells the weapon how it's supposed to fire, how many shots it fires. Then we'll have an extended version of that, so we'll have something that extends the other version that then does the spread, because the spread is almost never used with the alternative fire. So you'll never actually run into the situation where both those are used. So I might make a few various scripts and data structures. That way this ends up much cleaner, because some of the state is used together, some of the state is not used together. Anyways, when it wakes up, it of course gets the audio system. We only fire an audio event once per shot rather than per projectile. This is very nice because right now we don't have an audio mixer in here, so you can hear the bleed over and everything else in the shots. We calculate the spreads, we're not recalculating it per shot. Not too big of a deal, this math is like really fast. When it comes to firing, we check the reload time, and once the reload time is basically up, then we fire everything. So when it comes to how many shots we fire, we basically just loop that. If we're alternating fire, we just spawn the projectile. If we're not alternating fire, then we basically go through every single firing position. So if we had like 2, 3, 4, whatever firing positions for the exit points, then it will just loop all those and it will spawn a projectile. So with this being times per shot, effectively this basically is going to fire a projectile per each one of those slices. They'll fire all those, play the audio, and then we'll do the reload time here, which is done in delta time here, so we get a perfect, no matter what your frame rate is done, it'll perfectly reload every single time. Spawning projectile code is not too complicated. We get the firing position, which the next firing position is grabbed from this method down here. It just goes through that array and just grabs the next one and iterates over and makes sure that we are grabbing the next one in the list. It then grabs the position from there. We then create a rotation value. Then if we're doing shot spread, this is where I was talking about the code is not always used together. So we have an actual boolean for that. It'll then get the index of the slice. This is where I think the problem is with that firing script, where it's not quite getting that one extra bit there. It'll add the position, which we get from a method down below. It'll get the rotation, and then it'll recycle that slice index over as you fire more shots. If you end up firing all 8 shots, this should end up at 0 at the end. This could be another spot where that problem is popping up. We instantiate the prefab here. So we set the prefab we're going to instantiate, the position, and then we get the rotation from another field. This rotation thing is almost entirely used just to make sure that our gun is pointing in the right direction. Because we can't have guns that are slightly tilted left and right. There will probably actually be some AI mobs that will utilize this ability. This script is not just used by the player's weapon, it is actually used by the AIs as well. So that'll get that. We then tell it to ignore the body. This is probably not actually needed. I think I had a to-do marker at some point, still not in here. We then do the velocity. We are using the physics engine for everything, and then we set the destroy timer, which is just there so that the projectile destroys. There are some other stuff I kind of want to put in here, like effects and everything, but it's not too big of a deal. Anyways, here's the rotations part. So this gets the rotation of the firing position. So if we want to have weapons that shoot off to the side or something, that is something we will do. If we later on want to come through and make like a procedurally generated script that makes the weapon kind of pan left and right as it fires, so you had like a machine gun on the front of your tank, but you really couldn't aim it and you wanted to go left, right, back and forth. That is something we actually could do with this by just controlling that firing point and then modifying its rotation. Then the projectile will pick up on that rotation automatically. We have a random aim in here. This is not used by the shotguns. This is actually used by the machine guns. The machine guns use it and the cannons use it to give that simulation that you have like weapon shake on your vehicle. We're going to be definitely tweaking this. And then, of course, we have our rotation offset, which we put in from the slice thing. This then generates a new rotation and passes it back so that when we instantiate the object, it gets that thing. You've already seen that part. When it comes to the angle is pretty simple. We basically get half of the spread angle. So we in this case, because of the Z rotation, negative goes to the right. How we actually do this is that we push the rotation all the way to the left, and then we minus off the rotation to head back towards the right direction. So this will do the slice rotation, which will be a full length of it. So if we were going 60-degree spread, it'll be 30 degrees on the left and 30 degrees on the right. So this will push it that 30 degrees to that left, and this will slowly push it the full 60 back the other direction. So you'll have that full 30. Same thing works for the distance, except in this case, the X distance on our screen, negative X goes to the left, positive X goes to the right. So we actually have to push this to the left as well, and then slowly push it back to the right. You could do this in the opposite direction, though keep in mind if you were making this with your own stuff, the orientation of both of these need to match each other, because if, say, for example, you were pushing this instead of from left to right to left, and you left this the same way, your bullets would crisscross across each other. Say, for example, if we were moving from the bottom of the screen up, your shot would go this way, and then the one that was over here would go that way, which is a desirable thing you can pull off, but just keep that in mind, it will do that. It took me a while to figure that out myself. And here we go, we got the gizmo drawing. So the gizmo drawing, once again, checks for just basic spread. I may make a separate gizmo for the non-spread versions that will just show me the firing pass and everything else. It's kind of useful. I may even throw some inaccuracy in here so I can see the inaccuracy spread. But of course, because of on awake is not called when the gizmo draws, we have to recalculate our spread and everything. And then we do the 4 each for every transform position, and we just draw a base red line to show us where the distance is. 2 red lines to give us that cone, and then we go through and we draw all the other lines for the pass. Really simple script that actually is very, very useful because you can visualize and see what you're doing in real time and actually get that feel for it and everything else. Anyways, I'll leave the video off here and we'll be back with more content updates and everything else.